This is the Roller Coaster Podcast, and I'm your host, Lucy Q. Life is a wild ride. It has twists and turns. It's scary, exciting, and downright fun. So throw your head back, arms in the air, and come along with me for the ride.
Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride.
Okay, before we get started, check out nectargrowth.com. nectargrowth.com. It's free to join, but not for long. Nectar is an extension of the roller coaster. It's where you can start your own journey of self-exploration and growth. In Nectar, you'll find different topics of interest, daily blogs, affirmations, journal prompts, and you can connect with some of the fantastic coaches that have been on the roller coaster. Soon, we'll be adding videos, meditations, live discussions, and events. Our signature course is a journey of self-improvement, and it's valued at $397. But once you join, it's available to you at no cost. So if you're feeling stuck, if you feel like you need to change and not sure where to start with Nectar Growth Network. Come join us. You know you're worth it. Now, let's get on with today's show. By far, understanding and practicing gratitude has been key to my journey of self-exploration and growth. But real gratitude, it's more than just words. It's a feeling right down deep in your core. It's something, for me, I feel it in my heart. And with understanding gratitude also comes awareness. Joining me today is Jeff Teresi, also known as the Thankful Guy, to chat about cultivating a thankful heart and his new book, The 7 Key Abilities, How to Succeed 7 Days a Week. Hi, Jeff.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Lucy. I'm so excited to be here.
This is great. Gratitude is such an important topic. And I think if I think back, one of the first times it really came to light was when they released The Secret, the movie The Secret. They started really talking about gratitude. But for me, it was really challenging at the time to understand gratitude because, writing things out like, I'm so grateful I have feet. After you go through, your family and your house and all of those things that you have, it just never resonated with me. So it really took me a while to understand and really appreciate gratitude. And I know now how it's impacted my life. So for you, how has gratitude impacted you in your life?
Oh my gosh, it's absolutely changed everything. In the book that I wrote, The 7 Key Abilities, it's all about cultivating, first and foremost, a thankful heart and an empowered mind and encouraging connections so that we can then courageously create a clarified calendar and an inviting environment so we can confidently connect with ongoing growth and a purpose-filled plan. And I tell everyone, when it comes to true transformation, where to start is the heart. And it's all about the foundation of gratitude and having a thankful heart.
So for you, what do you consider a thankful heart?
And
How
so
would you
when
describe
I
it?
first give my talks to corporations, I always ask them, what do you believe is the most attractive trait a person can have is? And I always give them a clue. It's not a body part. And the actual answer is gratitude. Besides being the healthiest human emotion, gratitude is also the most attractive trait, which means when it comes to sales or marketing or leadership or just being a mom or a dad or a human being, whatever it is you do, if you want to be great, begin by being grateful. And gratitude to me is thinking thankful thoughts. And I can get into a little bit more detail in a little bit, but as a side note, your listeners might find it interesting that I was not always a grateful person. In fact, my first memory of ever truly feeling grateful wasn't until I was 15. See, at the time, my 2 brothers and I could no longer live with our parents. My dad had to choose between us and his drug addictions. He chose his
Ouch.
drug addictions. My mom had to choose between us and her boyfriend. She chose her boyfriend. But my grandparents, I remember them welcoming us into their home with open arms. And I remember feeling so grateful because I knew they didn't have to let us live with them, but they did anyway. They chose us. And for the first time, I chose gratitude. Now, the sad truth is, I believe most people don't choose gratitude most of the time because they didn't know they could or how and why they should. See, growing up, we learned by example, and gratitude is something that's rarely seen. Instead, what's most often shown is fear, discontent, and entitlement. So it makes sense that we worry, we complain, and we appreciate almost nothing. And so the key to cultivating a thankful heart, I believe, is recognizing that gratitude is a choice.
It is. It's definitely in everything that we do. We can either choose to see the positive, also
Mhm.
gratitude, or you can continuously replay the negative. And
Yeah,
it's through that constantly dwelling on the negative that's where you end up with problems like the feeling of stuck, being lost, being depressed, not having a sense of self or any meaning of purpose.
absolutely. And one of the benefits, when you see that you begin choosing gratitude often enough, you begin to experience some of the many benefits. For example, it dissolves discontent, it extinguishes entitlement, and actually furnishes freedom from fear. It's a scientific fact. You cannot experience fear and gratitude at the same time. And so it might be helpful to your listeners to actually share with you three very practical ways they can choose gratitude at any given moment. And to make it easy to remember, I actually created an acronym, R, A-R-E, because at any moment you either are grateful or you're not. And so the A stands for appreciate, the R stands for receive, and the E stands for embrace. And so when looking at the past, gratitude appreciates what it's been given. It recognizes, oh my gosh, I've been given many gifts. And when looking at the future, gratitude thankfully receives what is to come, both the good and the bad. And when it comes to the bad, it recognizes that trials and tribulations are both temporary and teachable moments. And when looking at the present, gratitude embraces the now and recognizes that this moment is a gift. And I consider this moment with you, Lucy, an absolute gift.
Thank you. That's very kind. Um, and one of the going back to your acronym R, you have appreciate, receive, and embrace. One of the things that I find people find it challenging is to be in receipt. Even something as simple as paying somebody a compliment. They're quick to, oh, don't worry about it. No, 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 it's not that important. No, it doesn't look that good. You know what I mean? They're always looking for a reason to not be in receipt of positive energy.
Mm-hmm.
And it leads to a lot of problems because, if you can't be in receipt of the positivity that's out there, then, if you're not getting the positive, then there's only one place to be, the negative.
Yeah, that's a super good point. I actually think that it stems from the misconception that it's better to give than to receive. Because I think it's just as good to receive as it is to give, because you can only give what you have. And unless you've received it first, you can't really give it away. And so by not receiving it from others, you're actually taking that gift away from them.
Well, it comes down to you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's balance and there's synchronicities and everything. You have to have one with the other, or it's just both broken. Now, the second, after a thankful heart, the second thing you mentioned was empowered mind.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
So a better life begins by thinking better thoughts. A better life begins by thinking better thoughts. How often do you think about what you're thinking about? Think about it. Have
That's
you
a
ever
lot of
thought there
things.
might have you ever thought there might be a better way to think? I think so. And so whether we're aware of it or not, We're fighting a battle every single day, and the war is waged within our minds. Of the thousands of thoughts you think each day, how many do you think actually help you versus hinder you? And how do you differentiate between the two? See, when it comes to getting where you want to go, your mind has the power to be a barrier or a bridge. It can either hold you back or propel you forward. And whether you believe that or not is up to you, because you get to decide what you believe.
And that's it, is ultimately we have the power to choose. And it's, and it comes in so many different aspects of how we choose to live and how we choose to grow. It's always down to a choice. And for me, I didn't realize, up until 2017, I didn't realize that I had a choice in anything.
Oh,
It was a case, I was one of those people that I just thought life happened to you. And you become, and that then makes you a victim of your circumstances. But it was
what was the
through,
biggest, yeah, what was the biggest catalyst, that the breakthrough that you had?
oh, it was hitting rock bottom, definitely. I called it scraping the bottom of ship barrel.
Okay.
And it was in those moments that I had a choice. I could either look down and drown, or I could look up at the possibilities. And it was when I surrendered to that everything began to change. And it was in that change that I was then able to appreciate gratitude and truly understand what it brings for you. Because it's more than just saying thank you. It's more than written words on a page. It's something, what? I'm at a little loss for words, because it's hard to put into words because of the feeling.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So well said.
Oh, thank you. So the third one you mentioned was about connections.
Yeah. Cultivating encouraging connections. And I think it's extremely important to recognize that the number one predictor of one's happiness is your connections.
Your
And
relationships.
exactly, your
Yeah.
relationships, your life-giving links. And arguably the most important one you have is the one with yourself. And so I highly encourage people. In fact, I actually have a free download on my website. It's called the Connecting with Yourself Worksheet. You can check it out at jeffteresi.com. I don't know if you want to leave it in the show notes, but
Definitely.
a lot of people that have never done it before go through it. Takes about an hour or two, and they're like, oh my gosh, I never asked myself these questions. And it was really eye-opening and illuminating for them. And only once you've connected with yourself are you then able to connect with others. And on the same point, only when you begin to love yourself can you truly begin to love others. And so it's so important to start with the foundation of connecting with yourself, and then connecting with others and having those extremely valuable relationships. I actually have a very practical approach when it comes to creating encouraging connections. I call the link, lock, lift approach. And I'm not sure if I have enough time to get into much detail on it, but I can go through it with you real fast.
Okay.
So essentially, the link is the initial coming together of two people. So perhaps you're born into the same family, or work at the same job, or happen to be at the same place at the same time. It's just having something in common. Now, the lock is what most relationships are missing, and why most relationships don't last. It's the foundation of flourishing friendships. The lock is the agreed upon, inseparable bond. You see, the link happens naturally, but the lock has to be intentional. Let's take the Constitution of the United States, for example. It didn't just happen. Now, our forefathers couldn't foresee the faraway future, but they labored to construct a foundation that could withstand the test of time. And you have an opportunity to do the same with your relationships. But rather than the Constitution of the United States, I want to encourage your listeners to enter into the Constitution of the United Mates, as in friends forever. And it's a simple 3-step process, and each step begins with the letter A. This is how your relationships receive a AAA rating. And so number 1, acknowledge. Acknowledge that you're both humans and you're both going to make mistakes. Number 2, agree. Agree that at times you will disagree, but no matter what, your relationship is based on that mutually pursued permanent purpose, which is, and this is key, helping each other to be your best selves. And number 3, allow. Allow permission to call each other out and to lovingly challenge each other whenever either of you is being less than your best selves. And so there you have it, the Constitution of United Mates.
The
And with the
triple A.
link, and with the link and the lock firmly in place, it's time for the lift. And the lift is love personified. It's being able to bear each other's burdens and raise each other to new heights. And so practically speaking, it set aside time each week to both give and receive encouragement, just as we talked about a little bit ago. It's so important to not only give, but also receive that encouragement. And if your viewers aren't already doing it, I want to encourage them. Now, you're not going to be able to do this with everyone, but just pick at least 1 or 2 people to enter into the Constitution United Mates with, and just set aside a half an hour every single week, the exact same time, so it becomes a habit, and just review your wins for the week, your losses or growth areas for the week, and what you want to accomplish. And just set it every single week so you're constantly receiving and being able to give that encouragement. And with that in place, I believe you set yourself up to create those life-giving, long-lasting links.
Yeah, that's, a lot of the time we have that organically in our relationships. While you were saying that, I instantly thought of my closest friend who lives several provinces away from me. So we get to see each other quite rarely, usually just once or twice a year. But, as you went through Link Lock Lift, I realized that, we came together, we became friends. I don't even know how we became friends because we are so opposite. It's funny how opposite we are, but we became really, really good friends. And in fact, even our husbands are good friends. And, that the lock stage, I think that just naturally evolved between us. But I really like that lift, that weekly check-in, because we all get busy. I mean, when you've got careers, you've got side hustles, you've got kids, you've got families, you've got other stuff. I mean, even with what was going on with the pandemic and lockdown, sure, we had a little bit more time, but there's another layer of crazy that got put on top of everything. But I really like that concept of checking in every week and having, those certain points to hit with each other, just to check in and be there in a different way for somebody.
Yeah, I think that's so cool that you have that relationship with your close friend. I actually do the exact same thing with my 2 brothers. Every single week, we set aside half an hour to an hour and just connect regardless of what's going on in the world, so that we can have that foundation and give and receive that encouragement.
Yeah, that's really cool. So going to your book, the seven key
The seven
key
key
abilities.
abilities.
I had a little brain fart there.
No problem.
Yeah, so is that the basis of that book, was, the thankful heart, empowered mind connections that you were talking about?
Absolutely. And the existential urgency, I would say the nugget, the thing that brings it all together, is the key to peace, empowerment, and perpetual progress is being able to make daily disciplined decisions.
Yes. Yes, we do.
Yeah, it's all about being able to make those daily disciplined decisions. It all comes down to the choices you make. Like, what do you think? What will you say? Who will support you? What will you pursue? These are questions we'll have to ask ourselves, and answers we all have to give. And so I highly encourage people to ask themselves those questions. And once you're able to answer those questions in a way that helps you to be your best self, well, now you have a plan in place and you can actually have that lead you, hopefully, is with love. But yeah, that's actually in the 7th chapter on showability. I always tell people there's 2 ways you can show up during the day. You can show up with anxious avoidance or welcomed anticipation. And so I want to show up each day with welcomed anticipation.
Sorry, what was the anxious one? Anxious
Avoidance, anxious
avoidance.
avoidance.
What would that look like?
That would look like staying in bed all day or not doing those things that will get your heart started. Actually, one of the things that really changed my life was making it a habit to first thing in the morning dance to one song. And I want to encourage your viewers, it might sound silly, but just no matter however you're feeling, just turn on your radio and dance to one song. And I find that music and dancing are magical because they can immediately and immensely modify your mood. And so that's one of the best ways to start the day.
Definitely. For me, uh, I don't think I could ever really incorporate dancing because I am not a gifted dancer whatsoever. It's just embarrassing, but I dance nonetheless.
It's just moving your body. I actually
Yeah,
have to tell
no, I
people,
do
no.
it quite badly. But what I do is I have my own playlist,
Uh-huh.
and that playlist are all songs that, lift me up and engage me and get me going. Um, and I listen to it while I'm doing my journaling practice.
Oh, awesome.
So for me, and it's the same, I think it's up to 7 or 8 songs now. It's the same ones. Yeah, I listen to them every day, but there's just certain parts of them that when you hear it, it just ignites you. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's probably the same reaction that you're looking for when it comes to dancing, is that you just need that thing that breaks you out of what could potentially be a negative thought pattern, what
Mm-hmm.
could potentially draw you into thinking about the negative crap you got to deal with in the day. It centers you and it kind of puts you on the right path. So you're starting off, lack of a better term, you're starting off on the right foot.
Absolutely. Actually, my morning routine, besides the dancing, I have a gratitude journal that I've been keeping since 2008 now. And my wife actually got me, it's called the 5-year journal. And so now I'm at a point where when I read or when I write down what I'm grateful for specifically this morning, I'm able to look on the exact same sheet and see the last 5 years, each paragraph form. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what I did last year, the year before. And it's so cool to be able to look back on all those other things I have to be grateful for, because it helps me to write more things to come. And I also have a nighttime journal. I do the same thing too. And for getting my mind right, absolutely imperative for me is to use affirmations, empowering beliefs. And so I go through that every single morning as well. And one of them is every single moment I have an opportunity to choose gratitude. And I have nothing to worry about and nothing to fear. And when I focus on my breathing and fix my mind on empowering thoughts, nothing and no one can steal my peace.
Beautiful. I've done something similar where I have, and again, it relates back to, when I hit that rock bottom, is I thought forward to, if I don't want to be this person, who do I want to be? And I started to paint the picture of who that person was. And I started to ask those questions, you know, how does this person think? How does this person act? What do they do with their time? How do they feel? And I ended up writing 5 somewhat affirmations, statements, also tying to a why. And I write those down every day. The same, yeah. Sometimes repetition helps. And I write
Mhm.
the exact same 5 things down every day. And then I crafted my own gratitude passage, we'll call it, for lack of a better term. That's what I go through every day because, one, I'm reaffirming what my goals are, but I'm also appreciating, one of them is I have a strong and healthy body and I am living a long, fulfilling life. Because in
Mhm.
those moments, I can appreciate what my body is in the moment. I can acknowledge what I maybe did the day before
Mhm.
to support it. And I'm also affirming that I'm living a long, fulfilling life. So it kind of
Yeah, you
wraps
covered all the
every
bases. That's
it's
awesome.
wrapped it all up in one little package. So yeah, and it does. And for me, that coupled with gratitude was the foundation of change. Like
That's so cool.
until you understand gratitude and you can really appreciate it, it's hard to explain how you change. Now I can look back and I can see how I changed. But in the
Yeah.
moment, I had no clue. I had no clue how broken and lost I was.
Mm. Yeah, it sounds like you had a new awareness. That is so cool. I'd love to hear. You don't have to share them now, but if they're not too personal, just shoot me an email with those 5 to 7 things. I'd love to
Sure, I
see
would
what
definitely
those are.
share that with you. It's also that's going to be all once I get my online business launched, as we were talking about before we hit record. It's going to happen sometime in July. My next major feat will be writing a book about it all.
Okay, awesome.
So
Very excited.
it's all out there. Yeah. So speaking of that, what is the best way for somebody to connect with you and buy your book?
So my website, Jeff Teresi, it's Jeff, T as in Tom, ERES as in Sam, I at not at Gmail, just .com it, just
That comment.
jeffteresi.com. That's a Gmail. No, don't do that one. And there you can actually find a lot of the concepts I covered today. I've made YouTube videos on. I actually, I didn't have a baby, but my wife had a baby. We had a baby 6 months ago. And so I haven't been able to do the 1 per week video, but I am going to get back on track with that in the very near future. So definitely check out the website. You can sign up for my emails, which will let people know about the new videos. And of course, there's also links to the book on the website as well. And I thought it might be fun, since we are talking about gratitude today, I'd like to share one other exercise that your viewers might be able to benefit from. But before I do, I actually have a poem that I wrote based on gratitude, and it's actually called Coming to Your Senses. And so as long as your viewers aren't driving or operating heavy machinery, I always encourage you to just close your eyes so you can relax and just listen to the words. Because when
Okay.
it comes to embracing the now, one of the best ways to do that is to consciously appreciate each of your senses. And so just go ahead and close your eyes. It's titled Coming to Your Senses. Have you ever really wondered how fortunate you are? Have you ever thought your blessings could outnumber the stars? First, imagine if you suddenly lost your sense of sight. Would you miss seeing the differences between day and night? Now imagine if you lost the ability to hear. As silence whispers in both ears, could you still persevere? Now imagine if you suddenly lost your sense of smell. Could you bid the sweet scents of flowers and fresh air farewell? Now imagine if you lost the ability to taste. What joy could come from eating if all flavors were erased? Now imagine if you suddenly lost your sense of touch. Does just the thought of such a loss make you feel very much? While each sense is sensational, there's only one you need. It's the sense to give thanks, the sense from which all gifts proceed. You can open your eyes. Open your eyes and begin to recognize that each of your senses is a reminder of the countless gifts you can be grateful for if you choose to. And so just the last exercise I want to leave you with, if again, you're not driving and you're able to do this, I want to encourage you to stick out both of your hands and look at each of your palms. And in each of your palms, I want you to imagine there's a list. Let's say the list on your left hand is everything you could complain about. Maybe it's too hot outside, it's too cold outside, you don't have enough money in your bank account, you're not getting along with someone, everything you could complain about. Now, list on the right hand is everything you could give thanks for. You have clean water to drink, more than a food to eat, shelter over your head. You have an amazing family that loves you, everything you could give thanks for. Now, at any given moment, you have a choice. And by the way, if you had enough time in your hands, each of these lists could be endless. But I want you to walk away with today is this. Any given moment, you have a choice. You can focus on the things to complain about, or you can focus on the things to give thanks for. It's completely up to you. And I never want to disregard or invalidate the list on the left hand, because those things are real. But the list on the right hand is just as real. And so next time you feel like you got a raw deal, before you complain, I just want you to look at both of your hands and ask yourself, which hand am I focusing on? And remember that gratitude is a choice, and true success begins with a thankful heart. And with that as our foundation, it's going to be hard not to break through to your next big breakthrough.
Wow. That poem was amazing. You're going to have to send me that so I can put that in the show notes as well, because I'm sure that people are going to want to read through that again. And if you're looking at connecting with Jeff, make sure you check out all of the show notes. I'm going to have all of his links in there. And Jeff, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Lucy.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Roller Coaster Podcast. Want to chat or share your ideas about today's show? Pop me an email at hello@therollercoasterpodcast.com. Don't forget to connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at The Roller Coaster Podcast. Our theme song, Roller Coaster, was performed by The Lucky Setback. Audio editing by the one and only Jeff Quigley of Quigley Creator.
Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride, 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 ride. Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride, 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 ride. Roller coaster. Ride, ride. Roller coaster.